Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to learn how to solve equations with variables on both sides. This is lesson 3.2 from your textbook. So let's get started. Notice how you have variables here and you have a variable here. So that's what we mean by equations with variables on both sides. Our first goal is to get all the variables on one side. So what I'm going to do to accomplish that is subtract 8x from this side and do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to subtract 8x from here. And notice how I stack this right underneath the term that has an x. Okay, and that's what you want to do. So now we don't have 8x here anymore. Here we have negative 4x minus 7 equals 5. Now look at this equation. You should be very familiar with solving equations like this because we have been doing a lot of those. So now all we have to do is add 7 to both sides. That'll give us negative 4x equals 12. And then divide both sides by negative 4 to solve for x. So x equals negative 3. So really, after the first step, after this first step here, the equation looks like all of the other equations you're familiar with. All right, so let's look at the next one. So again, we want to get all of our variables on the same side. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. This will give me 2x minus 16 on this side equals 14. Now I'm doing it this way. I'm always going to subtract out the variable term that it's on the right so that all of my x terms end up on the left, but it's not the only way you can do this. You can use a different method besides the one that I'm using, but I'm going to stick to this method because I want to use one method to make it simpler and less confusing, especially when you're learning this for the first time. So now I'm going to go ahead and add 16 to both sides. So we'll have 2x equals 30. Divide by 2, so x is 15. Okay, let's keep going. Number 3, we have a little bit more work to do here. Because if you look on the left side, I have 9x plus x minus 8. So I have like terms here that should be combined first. Okay, and that's what we're going to do. 9x plus 1x, that's 10x. I'll copy the rest of the equation. Minus 8 equals 8x plus 12. Now I can subtract 8x from both sides to get all of the x's on the same side. So subtract 8x from here, subtract 8x from here. We'll have 2x minus 8 equals 12. Let's add 8 to both sides. So 2x equals 20. Divide both sides by 2, and x equals 10. All right, why don't you pause the video and try number 4. And just like 3, okay, on the left side, you have this term and this term that should be combined first because they are like terms. So pause the video, try to solve this one, and come back and check. I'm going to go ahead and continue. 8x plus 4x will give us 12x plus 22 equals 6x plus 4. Now we can get all of the variables on the same side. So I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. I'm going to have 6x plus 22 equals 4. We'll subtract 22 from both sides. So I'll have 6x equals negative 18. Divide both sides by 6. X equals negative 3. This is different sign negative, DSN. So that's why the answer is -3. All right, number 5. In this case, we have parentheses on both the left and the right. So the first thing we're going to do is distribute so that we can get rid of the parentheses. I'm going to erase this 10 here and just move it up a little bit so it's not in the way. So I'll put x equals 10 for this one right here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start number 5. We're going to distribute. So 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times minus 6 is minus 12. I'll distribute here. 4 times 6x is 24x. And 4 times 1 is 4. Okay, now I can work on getting all the x's on the same side. So I'll do that right now. So let's subtract 24x from both sides. So we're going to have negative 18x minus 12 equals 4. We'll add 12 to both sides. Negative 18x equals 16. Divide both sides by negative 18. And x equals, we're just going to have to reduce that. Divide this by 2, we get 8. Divide the bottom by 2, we get 9. This fraction is negative, so should this one be. Okay, it doesn't matter where you put the negative, whether you put it on top or on the bottom. This whole fraction is negative, just like this whole fraction is negative. All right, you should probably pause the video and try the next one and then come back and check. 7 times 2 is 14x. 7 times 1 is 7. 5 times 3x is 15x. And 5 times 1 is 5. We're going to get all of the x's on the same side, so we're going to subtract 15x from both sides. That'll give us negative 1x plus 7 on this side equals 5 on this side. Subtract 7 from both sides. We'll have negative 1x equals negative 2. Divide both sides by negative 1, and x equals 2. And that's because this is SSB, same sign, positive. All right, number 7. We need to distribute here again. And I'm going to do this mentally. I think we should all be able to do it mentally. Half of 8x is 4x. We're just taking half of 8. And half of 6, that's what we're doing here, is 3. So half of 8x is 4x, and half of 6 is minus 3. Equals 1/3 of 9 means 9 divided by 3. If you want, we will turn these into fractions so you're not confused. And we'll do more steps to help you understand. 1 times 9x is 9x, and 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 12 is 12, and 3 times 1 is 3. Let's simplify that. 9 divided by 3 is 3x, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. Okay, now we can go ahead and work to get all the x's on the same side. So I'll subtract 3x from here, 3x from here. I'll have x, 1x, or 1x, minus 3 equals 4. We'll add 3. We'll add 3 to both sides. So x equals 7. All right, pause the video and try number 8. and then come back and check. All right, so if you want to turn these into fractions, you can if it makes it easier. So 2 times 6x is 12x, and 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 3 in the numerator will give us 6, and 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 10x is 30x, divided by 5. And 3 times 15, it's going to be minus 45, and 5 times 1 is 5. We're going to simplify all these fractions. 12x divided by 3 is 4x, plus 6 divided by 3 is 2, 30 divided by 5 is 6x, and 45 divided by 5 is 9. Okay, now we're ready to get all the x's on the same side. So let's subtract 6x from both sides. We'll have negative 2x plus 2 equals negative 9. Subtract 2 from both sides. We'll have negative 2x equals negative 11. Divide both sides by negative 2. This is SSP, so this will give us 5.5. Okay, I'm going to move this up here a little bit. So x equals 5.5. I'm going to put the answer here. So when I am working on the next problem, all these things don't run into each other. All right, so let's look at number 9. We do have variables on both sides, and we have fractions. We don't have parentheses, but we do have fractions, and they all have different denominators. So we want to get rid of these fractions by finding the least common multiple. So what do you think the least common multiple is? If you said 12, you are correct, because remember, here's what you're thinking. 3, 2, and 4. You're thinking, what number will 3, 2, and 4 divide evenly? We're talking about the smallest number that you can come up with, and that number is 12. So if you put 12 here, 3 divides 12, 2 divides 12, and 4 divides 12. So that is our least common multiple. That's what we're going to use to get rid of the fractions. All right, so multiply this numerator by 12, this numerator by 12, this number by 12, this numerator here by 12, this number by 12. 12 times 1 is 12 divided by 3, that's 4x. 12 times 1 is 12 divided by 2, that's 6x. And 12 times 2 is 24. 12 times 1 is 12 divided by 4, that's 3x. And 8 times 12 is 96. Okay, we got rid of all the fractions. We do have like terms here and here. We can put those together to give us 10x plus 24 equals 3x minus 9. 96, I'm sorry, minus 96. Now we're ready to get all the x's on the same side. So let's subtract 3x from here and 3x from here. We're going to get 7x plus 24 equals negative 96. We're going to subtract 24 from both sides. 7x equals negative 120. And now let's divide both sides by 7. And we can use our calculator for this. So 7 goes into negative 120 17 times, because 17 times 7 is 119. When you take 119, you're left with 1 over 7. This is negative. All right, let's keep going. Actually, why don't you pause the video and you try number 10 on your own, come back and check. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is get the least common multiple. And if you said that's 10, that is correct. So we're going to multiply this by 10, this number by 10, numerator here by 10, numerator here by 10, and this by 10. Okay, 10 times 2 is 20 over. All right, so let's simplify that. 20 divided by 5x is 4x. 3 times 10 is 30. 1 times 10 divided by 2, that's 5x. 3 times 10 is 30. That's negative 30 divided by 5. Hold on a minute. All right, let's simplify that. 10 times 2 is 20. Divide that by 5. That's 4x. 3 times 10 is 30. 1 times 10 is 10. Divided by 2 is 5x. Equals negative 3 times 10 is negative 30. Divide that by 5. That's negative 6x. And 2 times 10 is 20. Now I can combine these like terms. So that'll give me 9x plus 30 equals negative 6x plus 20. All right, now I can get all the x's on the same side, so I'm going to add 6x to both sides. So that'll give me 15x plus 30 equals 20. Subtract 30 from both sides. So I have 15x equals negative 10. Divide both sides by 15. And we're going to reduce that. Divide top and bottom by 5. If you divide this by 5, you're going to get negative 2. If you divide this by 5, you're going to get 3. All right, let's keep going. All right, so this brings us to the last page. Here, all these problems are actually equations with variables on one side only. Okay, so it's not equations with variables on both sides. So these are just similar problems to the ones you've learned how to solve before. So we're just going to go ahead and review solving those equations. All right, since we have fractions here, we want to get rid of the fractions. So we're going to use the least common multiple to help us. We're going to multiply each term by 10 to get rid of the fractions. 10 times 1 is 10. Divide that by 2. This is going to be 5x. Minus 4 times 10 is 40. 1 times 10 is 10. Divide that by 5 is 2. We're going to add 40 to both sides. So we'll have 5x equals 42. Divide 5 from both sides. So 5 goes into 42 8 times, because 8 times 5 is 40. That leaves us with 2/5 left over. All right, since I only have one fraction here, not multiple fractions, I don't need to worry about getting rid of fractions, because when I add 4 to both sides, all I have to do after that is multiply both sides by the reciprocal, and we know how to do that easily. All right, so I'll start by adding 4 to both sides. So I have 3/2 x is less than or equal to 10. Multiply both sides by the reciprocal. The 3's cross cancel, the 2's cross cancel. X is less than or equal to 20 divided by 3. X is less than or equal to, well, 3 goes into 26 times, because 6 times 3 is 18. We take 18 from the top, you're still left with 2 over 3. And we don't have to flip anything because we multiplied by a positive coefficient. All right, let's keep going. Here we can use the least common multiple to get rid of the fractions because there's more than one fraction. And if you said the least common multiple is 4, you are correct. We're going to multiply this by 4, this by 4, 4, and for every term by 4. 4 times 3 is 12, divided that by 4, so that's going to give us 3x. 1 times 4 is 4, divided by 2, that's 2x. Minus 2 times 4, which is 8, less than or equal to 32. We'll combine like terms. 3x plus 2x is 5x. Add 8 to both sides. So 5x is less than or equal to 40. Divide 5 from both sides. And x is less than or equal to 8. And if you are asked to graph that, that would be easy. We'll put 0 at the center. 8 will be to the right. And it will be a closed circle because we want it to be equal to or less. All right, number 14. It's just one step. We're going to divide both sides by negative 12. But we have to flip the sign because we're dividing by a negative coefficient. And that'll give us negative 6. We'll graph that. I know it doesn't ask, but we're going to graph it anyway. So negative 6 is somewhere on the left. This will be closed because we want it to be equal to or greater than negative 6. All right, number 15. To solve for x, we're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal, which would be negative 7 over 3. Negative 7 over 3. So the 3's would cancel, the 7's would cancel, we'll have x. We got to flip the sign because we're multiplying by a negative coefficient. Negative 42 over 3. X is less than or equal to negative 14. And we can graph our solution set. Negative 14 would be on the left side of 0, and it would be equal to or less. All right, so some students get confused when there's a negative outside and there's no number. Well, you can just always insert a 1, okay? And now you can distribute this. Negative 1 times 3/4 x is negative 3/4 x. Negative 1 times negative 2, so you have a negative and a negative being multiplied. So that's SSB, it's going to give you positive 2. Less than or equal to 8. Subtract 2 from both sides. And now we're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. Negative 4/3 here and negative 4/3 here. These will cross cancel. These will cross cancel, giving us x. We are multiplying both sides by a negative coefficient. We have to flip the sign. We'll have negative 24 divided by 3. So x is less than or equal to negative 8. Should be to the left of 0, and it's equal to or greater. And this concludes this video on solving equations with variables on both sides.